Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking about the Halloween timelines. And if you're not familiar with the Halloween timelines, basically there are so many movies now in the franchise. There's so many people that have directed it, so many people that have decided that they wanted to undo the previous movies or all these various things, that we have so many broken timelines and different ways to watch the movies. Some examples being that we have the Rob Zombie reboots, right? There's two movies in that line. They don't connect to any of the other movies, right? And then we have the most recent ones where we only have 1978 as the first movie, and then we go to 2018, Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends. That's just two examples. I have 10 right now that give you different options, and this gives you the whole choose your adventure vibe that makes the Halloween franchise so popular, in my opinion. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna rank all 10 of the ones that I have on my list in order from 10 to 1, and then you're gonna see what my favorite one is personally, and I'm pretty sure you're gonna find out that there's some that you didn't even think of. But anyways, let's go ahead and get into it. Coming in at number 10 is the Resurrection timeline, and you know what this is. It's Halloween 1978, Halloween 2 from 1981, Halloween H2O, and Halloween Resurrections. It is easily the worst timeline on this list, in my opinion. It's one of the worst timelines in general just because of Resurrection by itself. Resurrection just basically destroyed the whole stuff that they built up, because the timeline was actually perfect, right? We had Halloween 1978, Halloween 1981, both solid movies, with 1978 being a phenomenal movie. Then we lead to H2O, which is a really good movie. And then Resurrection just comes in and just destroys the whole continuity, because after H2O, Laurie Strode finally killed off Michael Myers. She cut off his head. It was like actually one of the better endings for the franchise, in my opinion. And then Resurrection came in and just ruined all of that by making one of the worst movies probably ever made, and then it ended up just destroying what was actually a good timeline. So for that reason, the Resurrection franchise is the Resurrection timeline is probably one you should ignore. But if you want to have some fun and watch the worst timeline, in my opinion, in the franchise, you definitely want to watch the Resurrection timeline. Coming in at number 9 is the Thorn trilogy timeline. So basically this just includes Halloween 4, Halloween 5, and Halloween 6. And you can watch these all three together because they really do kind of connect, right? There's a reboot with Halloween 4. It's not technically a reboot, but it's a restart for the Halloween franchise. And then we end with Halloween 6, which is kind of bringing everything that has been established between Halloween 4, 5, and 6 with the whole Thorn ideas and the cult and all that BS, right? Again, just like Resurrections, this is kind of a weird one to watch because, you know, this is when Halloween goes full supernatural, right? I mean, Michael's been possessed by this thorn mark and this whole cult his whole life, so that's kind of where we're going, right? And he has to exterminate his whole family, and if he does that, then he'll be cured of the thorn curse and all this stuff. So it's a mess, and it's definitely continuity wise completely horrible, but it is fun to watch, I will say, I guess, because it's all a train wreck, right? Halloween 4 is easily the best of this whole trilogy. 5 is easily the worst, and then 6 is just plain weird because it has two different cuts. We've got the producer's cut as well as we've got the theatrical cut, and both of them have equally bad things happen, or equally bad problems, but the producer's cut is actually the better movie. So it's just an interesting, like, weird, kind of kooky timeline, but the Thorn trilogy is definitely one you should check out, and it's number 9 on my list. Next on the list at number 8 is the sequel timeline, and this includes Halloween 1978, Halloween 2 1981, Halloween 4, 5, and 6. Now this is probably the most traditional way to watch Halloween because this is in order, right? I mean, Halloween 3 Season of the Witch does not count because it's not part of the Michael Myers timeline, but at the same time, like, you can watch all 6 of these movies, or all 5 of these movies, and get the full Michael Myers experience before we get into H2O and Resurrections, which are their own timelines, right? So, I mean, it's not a bad way to watch the Halloween movies. If you've never seen them before, it's one of the best ways to kind of get introduced before you start trying to watch the movies in different various ways. So, I mean, it's not bad. Like I said, there's some stinkers in there. Like 5 is the worst movie in this whole sequel timeline. But at the same time, like I said, it does technically kind of quote unquote flow. It just gets weird, right? Because we start with 1978, where he's just like this stoic kind of stalker killer guy, and then we end up in Halloween 6 with him being possessed by this cult. So I mean, it goes from one extreme where it's a super simple murderer, babysitter murderer guy, all the way to him being this weird, like, guy that was, you know, that was born into this cult, and he has to kill his whole family to be released. It gets weird, but the sequel timeline is definitely one of the most traditional ways to watch it, and yeah, it's 8th on my list. Number 7 is the anthology timeline, and there's only one movie for this particular timeline, which is Season of the Witch. It's not a bad one because Season of the Witch, again, like I've said in previous videos, is becoming like kind of like a cult classic, and it's becoming one of the more popular Halloween season movies ever made. But it's not a bad way to watch it. If you just watch Season of the Witch by itself and just think of it as its own thing, it's not actually called Halloween 3. It's actually a really good movie and a good watching experience. So for that reason, like I said, I had to give that one number 7 because it's in a weird place in the Halloween franchise, but by itself it can be its own timeline, and if you watch it that way, it's actually a pretty good movie. All right, so next on the list is number 6, and this is the H2O timeline, and this basically is just Halloween 1978, Halloween 2 1981, and Halloween H2O. Way better than the Resurrection timeline in my opinion, because it actually has a definitive end because Michael gets his head cut off and he actually dies. So we get the whole timeline, right? It's similar to the most newest timeline where we start off with one movie and then we end up with the death of Michael Myers. So it's actually a really satisfying end. I thought H2O was one of the best endings in the franchise, and of course 1978 is the one that most people view as the definitive start. So I mean, you get the best of both worlds. I think 1978 is the best movie in the franchise, and then you also have H2O, which is one of the best endings. So yeah, it's a good movie, and Halloween 2 is right in the middle, and it's pretty good. So this is a fun way to watch it. So if you want to watch it, watch the H2O franchise, and it's number 6 on my list. So number 5 on the list is the H40 timeline, which is the most recent timeline, which is Halloween 1978, Halloween 2018, Halloween Kills, and Halloween Ends. Now, the reason why I put this right in the middle of the whole list is because of Halloween Ends. While Halloween Ends as a concept is not a bad movie, it just was not a good ending to this particular H40 timeline. I like 1978, I like Halloween 2018, and I like a lot of elements about Halloween Kills, but like I said, just like the Resurrection timeline, I feel like Halloween Ends kind of brings it back a little bit in my opinion, where if Halloween Ends was actually a definitive conclusion, like H2O, I would have probably had it as my number 1 or my number 2 on this list. But for that reason, like I said, I love all the movies in their own way, but at the same time, like I said, I think that they just, lost control of the vehicle, so to speak, with Halloween Ends. But this is a really good way to watch it because 1978 to 2018 is a great transition 40 years later, and then Halloween Kills is a really decent follow-up to 2018 because it's the same night. So yeah, it's a fun way to watch the franchise, and if you want to watch it this way, the H40 timeline is really good, and this is number 5 on my list. All right, so number 4 on my list is the Rob Zombie timeline, and this includes Halloween 2007 and Halloween 2 2009. Now, I can already see the keyboard warriors who are Rob Zombie haters, and they didn't like these two particular movies in the comments, just about to blow me up. But look, I'm unapologetically a Rob Zombie Halloween fan. In terms of Rob Zombie himself, not really so much. I think he's a weird guy, but we can talk about that another time. But yeah, with Halloween 2007, I think that's one of the best movies in the franchise. I thought they captured enough originality with going through Myers' background. While some of it is weird and very crude, and I didn't like a lot of those aspects, I did like the fact that they tried to explore some background with Michael Myers when he was younger, going to the sanitarium, and then they ultimately gave a lot of homage to the original Halloween 1978. I thought that was great. And then with Halloween 2, he went completely overboard and off the rails, and I admit there's a lot of themes in that movie that just don't make sense, and we kind of, have all these psychological elements and various things like that, and it's even more crude and crazy and very dirty. It's like a dirty movie. I don't know, it's like got a bunch of issues, but I like it. It makes me think, it makes me try to figure out what is really going on. I like hooded Michael Myers in this, where he's a little bit more, he's got the beard, he's a little bit more gross, but I don't know. It's just, like I said, Halloween 2 has grown on me over the years, and it's not bad. But yeah, the Rob Zombie timeline is number 4 on my list, and yeah, if you want to watch it that way, I'd go for it. So number 3 on the list is going to be one of the simpler timelines, and this is the Babysitter Killer timeline, and this is just Halloween 1978, John Carpenter's original vision. Now, John Carpenter, as most people well know at this point, just wanted Halloween 1978 to be the only movie. When he shot this in 4 weeks, he shot it with a low budget. He was not intending for this to blow up and be so successful and warrant so many spin-offs or so many extra movies and whatnot. Even Halloween 2 he didn't want to do, he got talked into doing it. So with his original vision in mind, and if you're thinking about just what you wanted to see his full vision for the character to be, Halloween 1978 is the only one you really need to watch. It's the Babysitter Killer. That's all you need to see. He's the shape. and he ends up having a mysterious end where he just disappears into the night, and that's where it's supposed to end. So if you just want to like get his full vision, that's it. Just watch Halloween 1978, and that's called the Babysitter Timeline. So number 2 on the list is the 40-year timeline, which is just Halloween 1978 and Halloween 2018. Now, you can just watch both of these movies together, and there is a definitive end with Myers burning in the bottom of Laurie's house. It technically doesn't need to continue on with Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends. With the way they ended the movie, it really does feel like a conclusion to the story, in my opinion. So I really like it. I think it's well done because I love both of these movies. They're two of the best. Both the best movies in the franchise, in my opinion. Because 1978 is the original definitive movie, so I think that's the best. And then I think Halloween 2018 is the second best. So just pairing these two movies together, because they do coexist in the same universe, because one is the 1978 and then 2018 is 40 years later, continuing the same story. I like them both paired together, and then just watching these two alone, I have a really phenomenal viewing experience, in my opinion. So the clear number 1 on the list is the One Long Night timeline. Basically, this is just Halloween 1978 and Halloween 2 1981. This is by far the perfect bread and butter movie set to watch, because you know, even though, yes, John Carpenter wanted Halloween 1978 to be the only movie, he did still direct or write most of Halloween 2, even though he hated it. They still pair well together because both of them are financial successes, and I think that they both flow well together because they're on the same night. Yes, The Mask in Halloween 2 is not the best because it's been, you know, mishandled for 3 years by the studio and whatnot. But at the end of the day, with all my little gripes with it, I can't help but just enjoy watching these two movies together every time. They seamlessly flow together. There's a definitive end to Michael Myers because he gets burned to death and he's actually, you know, killed off. Loomis is killed off. So I don't know, like I said, they just pair well together, and I think if you just watch both of these movies together, you can get the ultimate Halloween experience, and then that's all you need to watch. All right, so that's all the Halloween timelines, and again, this is what makes the Halloween franchise fun. You have so many different ways you can watch the movies and whatnot, and it makes it really interesting when you kind of watch them in a certain order. So I challenge you, definitely go watch some of the movies in a different order for once, and just see and experience them in a different way. And then if you didn't hear of any of these timelines, let me know down in the comments below which one you're interested in actually watching of the new ones that you haven't heard of. But all right, guys, that's it. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.